Okay, hello everybody. This is Birdie again from My Favorite Quilt Store, and we are going to start doing some tutorials, and we're going to do a tutorial on cutting out the first two things that you cut from this kit. But before I do that, when I start a new kit, first thing I do when I get it, if I ordered it online, is I go through and make sure that all the cuts of fabric that are supposed to be in the kit are actually in the kit. I've only, in all the years I've been quilting since, almost 25 years, and only one time has this happened where I bought a kit and I took it home from the fabric store, and I was so excited because I thought it was so pretty, and I laid everything out and I realized right then and there that I was missing a cut of fabric. So I went to that quilt shop the next day, and they actually gave me a free book for telling them that, because it saved them a big headache once they started mailing this kit out and stuff. So it doesn't happen that often, and if you are missing something, it's better to find out about it when it's a new print of fabric, a new line that's come out. Otherwise, if you wait and you don't do it for 2 years, you don't know if you can get the right piece of fabric or not. So that's a good tip for y'all. So the next thing I do is I go through, get my instructions out, and I actually label all of my fabric pieces. So, excuse me, the white is used for it's got 2 letters for it. It's going to be A and H. And I've got a little sticky here, and I've done that for all of the fabrics here. It just helps me keep organized. And on this kit, some of these fabrics are kind of similar, so it's better to keep my stuff organized from the get-go. So I always do that for every kit that I'm going to work on. So the next thing is, the first thing we're going to do with this white fabric is we're going to cut 7 strips that are only 1 5/8 inch wide. And that to me set off like a light bulb, because it's not a typical cutting width. Usually it's like within like a quarter, like 2.5, 2 1/4, 3.5, or whatever. So that just told me that it's something that's going to be very precise. So what I decided to do is and we're talking about this cross, this kind of cross piece that's in the quilt. These little blocks there. So I grabbed some scrapped fabric, leftovers from a different project, and I made one. And it's supposed to measure 5 inches. But when I actually got my ruler out and I measured it, it's more like 4 7/8. And that's not going to cut it for this kit. It doesn't work usually for any kit. And so I went back and I double checked, and I kind of thought, well, that looks like it's pretty close to a 1/4 inch seam, but I could do better. So I double checked to make sure that my 1/4 inch foot was in the right, that I was using that, and that my stitch was at the right place, the stitch width and the whole thing. So I actually made this block on a different sewing machine, which you don't think is that big of a deal. But when I come and I sew on the Bernina back here, it's a little foreign to me because I'm so used to sewing on my Janome. But I double checked. The first thing I did is I did a sample seam to make sure that what I am stitching is truly a 1/4 inch. And excuse me, I compared my original block with the one I did today, and it's hard to tell, but I want to see if I can get this lined up. We can get a shot of this, because you can tell I got white thread, and that may not show up. But there is a very slight difference in the width of those 2 seams. So after I double checked my 1/4 inch to make sure I was doing the proper 1/4 inch seam, I made a second sample block, and it's exactly a 5 inch square, which is exactly what we want for this kit. So now that I know that I've got my 1/4 inch worked out on this machine, and it's going to be pretty more accurate. That's more accurate than it was when I did the first block. We're going to go ahead and cut this. And the first thing I do, and it's weird because I'm sitting down, but this table's a little bit lower, but we're going to make it work. So I always take and make sure I've got a good solid straight edge before I start measuring anything. So I'm going to give myself a clean cutting edge. And I don't think I got it here. Yeah, I could tell by the sound my blade made. I didn't have it cut all the way, so there we go. And this is maybe one reason why I don't sit down and cut. You don't get the same amount of pressure that you get from when you're standing up, but that's it. So now I know that's a really good edge. So I'm gonna flip it on over, trying to make sure that I keep my raw edges even here. Okay. And the other thing, when you're worried about whether or not you can really get that very accurate 1/4 inch seam, is you want to make sure your cutting is just as accurate as you're sewing. So on here there's a couple, since there is a product that we sell, it's called highlighting tape, and I've got some samples here. I don't think we sell that here at My Favorite Quilt Store, but like at any other sewing supply house, even Walmart probably has it. Sometimes it comes as a 1/4 inch width, and then and this one you would have to like pull it open, and then you'd have to cut it off. This one I love because it comes like Scotch tape makes it real easy to just take it off. So I am going to put on my ruler, since it's an odd number, it's not just 1 1/2, it's 1 5/8. I am going to stick this on the cutting line of where I want to. So it's just going to help remind me when I'm placing my ruler to do any of my cutting for this. That's where I want. It's not 1 1/2, it's 1 5/8. So get ready, we'll make our first cut. Okay. Oh, looky there, I've got it done in one cut. So and I've got to cut, according to my instructions, I need to cut 7 of these. So I'm going to cut it out of the white fabric. Then I'm also going to cut it out. The next thing it tells me, I've got to cut just as many out of the polka dot fabric. So that's what I'm going to do. And then once we get that done, we'll be ready to start sewing these together. And the first thing we're going to do in this kit is we're going to make these little blocks here. So just like I said, accuracy counts in any quilt, but just make sure, since it's an odd little number, that when you're doing your piecing, you're staying right on that 1/4 inch line. And if you're having trouble following it on your machine, if you really need to, you can mark it on your fabric. But I'm thinking that if you've got the right kind of presser foot or anything like that, the 1/4 inch foot. On this one, it's a 1/4 inch foot, and I've got to put my fabric right on the edge of that foot and just keep it going, because a little bit off can make, like I said, I already told you my story about how these two differed. And I could have made this work if I really wanted to, but, and the other thing sometimes, and I don't know if this is a big deal or not, but sometimes fabrics come in, I don't want to say different weights. This is like a cone of cotton, I believe. So it's usually a little bit thicker. And when I pick up this one, I can already tell just by holding it, it's a little lighter in weight. And to me, it's a little bit thinner. And I love sewing on these fabrics, believe me. But I can already tell. A lot of times your instructions are going to tell you to press to the dark side, and that's what this kit tells you. And normally that's what I do. But when I made my sample block, I noticed that my black fabric was a little bit thicker than my light bluish gray stuff. And in my first one, I followed the instructions and I pressed it to the dark side. And that could be one reason why this piece, not only is my seam a slightly bit larger than a true 1/4 inch, but when you do that fold over, when you're pressing, because you press it all to one side, you actually lose a little bit of you takes up a little bit more fabric. So when I made this second one, I actually pressed it to, I took and made sure that the fabric was pressed. This is the second one. and I pressed it towards the lighter fabric, not the lighter color, the fabric that's thinner, I guess. And that, because it's thinner, it's not going to use as much fabric to when you make that fold in your press. And I don't know if that's confusing or not, but it helps when you want to go for accuracy. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to come back, like I said, we're going to do different steps when we're making this kit. So make sure you come back and catch the next video for this quilt. Thank you.